father in, I used to call him father, but you all call him Tirumani. Tirumani. He told me it means the holy body. And then he laughed. And when he used to laugh, his whole body would. He used to laugh from inside. He had this very spontaneous laughter, which showed through his eyes and all his body. Yeah. So I met father in, I think in 1986, in a seminar at the arts faculty in Delhi University. I was I think I must have been a lecturer or a reader or something at that point. And the seminar was arranged by the philosophy department in Delhi University. I don't recall what the seminar was on, but during the seminar, I had made a couple of interventions, and I remember that at the end of the session, Father Gregorios came up to me and he said that those were good interventions and that he would like to discuss. So we sat down to discuss the whatever I had said. It was something on reason, if I recall. And as you know, he really worked on reason. He reason and experience, and on the limitations of reason in the understanding of the human condition. He was so. As you know, philosophy is, especially the post-Enlightenment, European Enlightenment philosophy, is reason-oriented, very largely. I mean, until David Hume and Kant, it was not even questioned. Yeah. So the Father Gregorios questioned reason. So after the seminar, we began to talk, and then we talked for as long as he lived. Yeah. Yes. So, and I remember that in 1987, after that 86 seminar, I don't think I saw him. Then I went as a fellow to the Indian Institute of Advanced Study in Simla, and I remember I walked into the breakfast room and I saw Father sitting there. And I walked up to him and I said, I don't know if you remember me, but we had this talk after the seminar, and he said, of course I remember you. And so then that period, because that was a residential fellowship, and Father's study were next to each other. So we had a lot of dialogue there, yeah. And I would write whatever I was writing, something on values at that point, values in education or something I was writing. And I would discuss with Father. Yeah. And he would give very rich inputs. I was at that point very young. And he was like my father. So, yeah, so it was a very, what should I say, his advice was very, it guided me. It was very important for me. And he sort of became my philosopher guide. Yeah. Later, when you're asking for my personal interactions, yes. And later when I came back to Delhi, and he was based in Tughlakabad. And my parents lived in Faridabad. So I used to have a small car which had just come out, some Maruti 800. And I would go every weekend to Faridabad, and I began to take the route through Tughlakabad so that I could sit with Father for about whatever little time he had. And so our dialogue sort of developed. It was largely around this limitation of reason, because it absolutely fascinated me. Because as you know, all our education is based on reason. I mean, it's our whole understanding of what constitutes knowledge or knowing is dependent on reason. So, how do you deal with something which you know and cannot find a reason for? Was what became our the topic of what we discussed, Father and I. And he was basically a theologian, I think. What do you think?
Yes, ma'am.
He was basically a theologian. And therefore, he understood the significance of faith. And he saw no reason why faith should become an opponent to reason. Now, you know that in the West, this reason and faith are treated as polarities, which I could never understand, because how do we know, after all? Even in science, which is dependent on empiricity, on empiricality, on validity, on reliability, on proof, on evidence. But even the scientific axiom it's not constructed by reason. It may be justified by reason, but it is not constructed by reason. And this Father helped me to sort of, unravel, because this was just, any student of philosophy thinks. And I was, since I was an educator, I said all our education is based on the cognitive, developing the cognitive dimension of the child. We don't help her to develop, say, her intuition. Intuition is not even recognized as a method of knowing. Is it? It's not. And I'm sure we've all experienced how you think of a friend and so calls. And how do you explain that? Is it always coincidence? Is it? Yeah. And my mother would know when I was unwell. She was sitting 40 kilometers away from me. And she would know. So I was questioning all this. And then Father began to explain to me how the European Enlightenment had impacted on epistemology and on theories of knowledge. And I began to read in that time. And he guided me through all that. Yeah. So, in so many senses, he helped me to develop a perspective. Yeah.
That is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Many times when I would stop in Tughlakabad on my way to Faridabad, he would be waiting because I would phone and go, of course. And he would be waiting, then he would say, "Can you get me, what was he working on? What was the name of that Neoplatonic thinker? What was his name? It's gone out of my mind. He had 10 volumes of. Yeah. Where are his books?
Ma'am, his books, ma'am, actually it is looked after by two trusts.
Okay.
One is the Mar Gregorios Foundation, that is in Kerala, and the other one is Sophia Books.
Okay.
So these are the two trusts that is looking after or promoting new publishing works of his.
Yes, but those I'm thinking of his collection of
Collections,
books.
ma'am, actually that has been distributed
Oh my
to
God.
various colleges and everything.
That was a very.
Yeah, only few, we have got around, ma'am, 7,000 books in Tughlakabad.
You still have.
Yeah.
So I hope they are being looked after.
Yes, there's
They're
library.
very precious
Yeah,
books.
it's a library that's
Very, very precious books. So I remember his study lined with books. And then he would say, pull out volume so and so. I used to think that, does he have to wait for me to come in? He didn't really have any assistant to do this. Yeah. So anyway, in that study, I sat through some of the discussions he had with other people also. For instance, with the Dalai Lama came to see him. Yeah. In Tughlaqabad. He came to the study, as far as I remember. Then once I think Ivan Illich came. Yeah. I don't recall whether that interview was in Tughlaqabad or was it in the US. But I was there. This I recall. So when he talked to people of that caliber, I learned. I would be a silent spectator, and I learned. So, Father Gregorios that way provided a sort of a forum where someone who's young and eager to learn could learn. He would come to seminars in Delhi University and in Jawaharlal Nehru University. You see, the philosophy community is very limited, very small. He would be there in most philosophy fora. I remember him once in dialogue with Satchidanand Murthy. Yes, that was a great experience. That was in Chennai, in that center for the study of philosophy. Yeah, I was there in that seminar, and I saw him in dialogue with, in the sense, during the seminar. And then afterwards, of course, also, over a cup of tea, I would quietly go and stand next to these great minds talking. Yeah. So, yes, and what else can I tell you? Oh, yes, and he, in Simla, there would be weekly colloquia and presentations. And I remember presenting a paper on policy in higher education. And he, before I presented it, gave me a big lecture on philosophy and policy. Yeah. On how to look at policy philosophically. And that then also started me. You see, the London School of Education was set up by people like R.S. Peters and all, who were they were analytic philosophers. They were analyzing. Let me not classify them as analytic philosophers, but they were philosophizing about education. So they were looking at the elemental in the nature of theory of education and education and schooling. So Professor Peters used to sit on all policy making for education in England. And I remember going to see him when I went to London. And I went to see him because I was interested in probing this policy and philosophy connection, which later Father explained much better to me. I was reading on it, but his, he had he had very good grip on basic ideas anywhere, whether it is in education or health or ethics, the ethical, the social justice. He was very, he would talk and on things like equality, he would talk on personal freedoms and the need to think of the social when you are exercising individual freedom. And I think that came from this congregational understanding. That was a very, it was an ecumenical kind of an idea which I saw in him, and it made me question not question but probe the liberal view of individual freedom and what should be prioritized, whether should be individual freedom or it should be social equity rather than individual freedom. And those were the things I was exploring, because in education we cater to the individual. And we see all our attention is on how the child learns. Not even on that. Sadly, it is more on how he performs. So I was also exploring this, that his education, I mean, how do we determine that somebody is educated? We go by the degrees, by the certification, and all that comes through performance, and does not probe understanding or development really. So Father would help me to understand why this happens in schools, and he was extremely fond of children. He'd see a child on the street, he would stop and talk, and he was concerned about the child and her education. And I don't know, he did set up a place.
Yeah, boys' school in Kerala.
He did, yes. I remember him telling me about it, and he would go there and come back very happy. Yeah. In fact, I think I have a picture. See?
Yeah.
And behind it says, "Happy after seeing my children, July 1996.
Okay,
See?
it's written there. Okay. Oh, happy after seeing my children, July 1996.
Yeah. He used to be very happy. So he had this basic concern with children and their education, which was another sort of space where we could interact. My interest is in education of the child. Though I want to understand education philosophically, which I'm still trying to do after 40 years. Yes. But in this journey he has helped me. It's very difficult to say exactly how. But through discussions of so many things, he would make clear. He would say something and it would clarify things for me. Yeah. I, of course, was also very appreciative of simple things which sometimes I would cook and when he would come. And in fact, the last thing I remember of his it was, I want to have, Father, how are you? Have you eaten? I want to have a crisp dosa. So, so I said, okay, so is your kitchen making it? So he said, no, they have gone somewhere to buy it. I said, okay. And one of my colleagues, Janaki Rajan, who was also very fond of Father, she and I were together that, I think she was staying with me at that point. And so what we did was, there was dosa batter in my fridge and we took it out, we piled everything into my car and we drove to Tughlakabad. And he had a little kitchen outside his room. And Janaki, of course, I didn't know how to make. But Janaki made him these crisp dosas. And he had those. And I think that was the last meal he had. Was it the night after that or 2 or 3 days later that he passed? Yeah. My last dialogue with him, I'm afraid I was not very nice. I was a little angry with him because he was going through, he was very ill and he was going through what he called detoxifying my body. So he was going through dietary restrictions which were imposed on him by some Russian fellow, those healers he was so fond of. So one of those had come and he was living in Tughlakabad and he was deciding what Father would eat. So to my mind, it was not healthy. So I remember telling him, this is not right. You should eat normal food, uncooked, something. He was giving him only juices and uncooked food. And I thought it would be hard on. At that time, of course, I thought he was very old, but he was not that old. Now I'm 72. So Father died in 1996 and he was born in 22. So he was 70s. He was in his 70s. And I am convinced that if he was not following that diet, it would not have put such a great strain on his heart. But of course, there were doctors around him. And Cherian, you know Cherian? Cherian was looking after him. But nobody could talk him out of this detoxification. So that was my last conversation over the phone. And then, no, after that I did see him. And that is when he said he'd have the dosa and something. So he ate, to my mind, he ate normal food. Then, of course, a few days after that, at night, I got a call from the Tughlakabad Center, and they said, "You better come." And it was late night. So Janaki and I drove to Tughlakabad, but they had already taken him to that Mathur hospital. And when we reached, because it takes about an hour to drive, when we reached, they were bringing him back. Yeah. And I couldn't believe that he had gone. So I kept saying, he's still warm, he's still warm, you know. And anyway, that was it. That was my last. Then they said they took him in a procession. Yeah. And then they took him to Kottayam. And I remember Cherian saying, "You want to come?" Because there was some private plane or something.
Yeah, chartered plane.
Yeah. And I said no. And that was the last I saw Father Gregorios. Yeah. But he was my friend, philosopher, guide. He was also my father in so many ways. I shared with him what I did not share with my biological father. You know, with your own father, you have so many restrictions. With father, I could share. So it was a great influence in those 1986 to 96, the decade I knew him. Yeah. Yes. After that, then, I was reading him, but I think I had already sort of got an idea of what my own stance would be from my reading and also from father. Yeah. Then there were, some conferences we did together. Father did, and we helped. I had a small group by then who all admired Father, my scholars and my students. So we did we helped him with one conference on Neoplatonism.
In Delhi?
In Delhi. Ben Harris, who worked on Neoplatonism and the Upanishads. He had come. That was a great scholar. And Father was working on this. Of course, Plotinus. You remember?
Yes.
I was saying who was the
I
philosopher.
knew this, but I thought that...
It is Plotinus. And Plotinus's works were there. I hope they are there.
I hope.
There were several volumes. And Father knew what was in each volume. That well he had studied Plotinus.
He said it had an Indian connection.
And then he was together with Ben Harris. I think they did a paper together. I don't remember. On the Upanishads and Neoplatonism and the Upanishads, or Plotinus and the Upanishads. There's something here. I remember, and I remember planning this conference with him. These things have just come. See, Neoplatonism and Indian thought. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, was it 90?
1992.
92. And see, I found this list of people who were to be invited to the conference. These things you may want to keep if you like.
Yes, sure.
Huh?
Sure.
Sure. I don't mind if you take them. So there was this group of people, Deepa Nag, Abhik Ghosh. He's now, Deepa is now, I think Deepa has retired now. And Abhik Ghosh is, he would sit in a chair, and the students would just come to talk to him. And he used to love it. Because you see, in the university, there was no distance with Father. In the church, he was Tirumani. So I think people are not that free or forthcoming, and he knew a bright mind and enjoyed sort of wrestling with dissent, because students will question. The students don't accept you. And he would love it. Yeah. Yeah. So many evenings when there was an 3, I think. We did a what did he call it? Alternate healing.
Oh, yes. Near Suraj Kund.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You were there?
Yeah, no. I remember.
Reading about
reading
it.
about it.
So that was a very, very interesting thing Father organized. There were healers from all over the world, from Russia, Korea, from South Asia. Then there were 2 witches.
Oh.
Yeah, witches are healers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So he invited them. They were there. There was, I don't remember, Sushil and Ramani Joseph from these MRF
Okay,
people,
MRF.
from Chennai. They are pranic healers.
Oh, yes.
So they set up, so we set up clinics
Okay.
in Surajkund, and we carted people from New Delhi on a bus to come to Surajkund, and the clinics were there for about 5-6 days, and people benefited. There was one friend of mine who suffered from migraines, and Sushil and Ramani healed her. Healed her in the sense, at that point, the migraine she was having, they could help her out of it. Just they took warm saline water in a basin and washed their hands, and then they would just wave their hands all over, and they apparently collected all her energy to her head, and then they let it flow, and it healed her. So these alternate ways of healing, Father believed in them. he believed in these. He was not a slave of reason. Yeah. And he organized, and there was another conference, Concord he called it, World Concord or
Concord, yeah.
of
Rishikesh.
Rishikesh. Rishikesh. So we were there also. This whole team worked with him. He called it.
World Spiritual Conference.
Yeah, he called it my team, Jaya's team. And what he used to call me? One person ministry. Yeah, he used to call me, because I used to look after one residence for students also. I used to look after them. So the residents came to me as they would come to a parent, naturally. So father used to see all that, and then he used to say, this is a one-person ministry. Yeah. So this small team, then we went off to Rishikesh. But before also, when father was deciding where it should be held, who will give us the space, so we went to Rishikesh. And there used to be one driver, a very nice man, young father's driver. He drove us to Rishikesh. And I should tell you how he interacted with people from various faiths. We stopped on the way in, what is that, Paonta Sahib. It is a Gurudwara. It's a very big Gurudwara, very important Gurudwara. And the Granthis there came out to meet with father and received him with great respect. And then we went into the Gurudwara. And after that we proceeded to Rishikesh, where we came to an ashram. And who was the Swami? What was the Swami's name? Sachidanand or something? Chidanand Swami. Chidanand Swami. He was also young, and he came out and he received father, and then he gave even us. He gave those who went with him. He gave a room to us to stay, and then in the evening, I remember that meal. Very simple, in a thali. There were two katoris, one dal and one sabzi, and two chapatis. And father had it with so much relish. He was, and see, this way also we learn to appreciate the simple things, because he was appreciating it. No? So for somebody who's young, you say, okay, yes, you don't need 10 things to eat. Yes, he taught us. I think he gave me this understanding that a very simple meal can be a very good meal. Yeah. And yeah, I remember this. And then, of course, there are all the arrangements he made with Swamiji. And then we came back, and then we went for the conference. And then we really prepared for it. He wanted, what is her name? Sonal Mansingh was a very famous dancer, top dancer. And her father knew her we were all members at the India International Center, yeah. So he would meet her, and he requested her and she agreed to put up a performance in Rishikesh. So then I thought the performance should be next to the Ganga on the ghat. But Sunelji said that lighting and all will not be good. For a dance you need a stage.
Your understanding about the richness of thought that he had while he was a theologian, so he never limited to a particular framework.
No.
That, okay, I'm theologian, so I should deal with
No,
only
not
with
at
one.
all,
He
not
was
at all.
very open to other disciplines.
Absolutely, absolutely. But in fact, this complaint he had. He said, if I was not wearing these robes, he said, I would be received better by your academic community.
Yes.
He used to say that to me. And I would protest, no, of course not, and there's no such prejudice. But he may have been right, because he was perceived as a theologian. And he was definitely a thinker, and, just as Ramchandra Gandhi, or I don't know if you knew Chaturvedi Badrinath. Okay. He's no more, but he was a very close associate of Father Gregorios. And then there was Maulana Wahiduddin Khan Sahib.
Oh, he passed.
He passed.
Was he also
Very much an associate. I remember inviting him to this Concord. We couldn't come, but Father was in dialogue with him, Wahiduddin Khan Sahib. And then this gentleman in the Hamdard University Vice Chancellor, Ali. I don't remember his full name.
Asghar Ali?
Was it Asghar Ali in Hamdard University?
I think so.
So Father was in dialogue with him. So as you are saying, he was not confined to, though he called himself a child of Christ, a bride of Christ. Yeah. I have seen him sitting in prayer with his hands like this.
Okay.
He could sit for a long time. And I remember going to Kottayam. His study was there upstairs somewhere. And then there was a chapel, very old church.
200
yeah, 200 years. And he said, go and attend. So they were doing, they were having one of their services. So I went in, and for me it was again an education that there were no pews.
Yes.
In North Indian churches there are pews, and everybody sat on the ground. And I remember going in and sitting with my back to the wall, right at the back. And I think I can share this with you, you'd understand that as the service progressed, I could feel the vibrations from the wall.
Okay.
Because there was 200 years of worship in that place.
Yes.
Yeah. And these are not things you explain by reason.
Yes.
Yeah. So Father has experienced that. Father has lived that.
He was the principal of that seminary.
No, he has lived that life. Therefore, his understanding of this dimension of man, as Marcuse says, you're not a one-dimensional, you're not created only by technology and science. we are not just that, and that there is this spiritual dimension, there is this need for God, there is this aspiration for something beyond, there is a quest for the transcendental. All this is real.
True.
It is there in everyone, in most people. So how do you deny that? How? That is what he was saying. Now, if he was perceived as a theologian, yes, he was. If he was perceived as a man of science and religion, or philosophy and religion, or philosophy of religion, or whatever he was perceived as, he was that and more. Yeah. I would say he's a thinker in his own right. Very much like a J. Krishnamurti or a Paulo Freire, or people you saw in. Yeah. And he was certainly a mind to reckon with. Yeah. And he was much ahead of his time. He was, he had already addressed the postmodern. He had already addressed it. He gave me an understanding of it. And then one of my scholars worked on postmodernism. But by that time, Father was not there. Otherwise, he could have learned a lot. This scholar came only in 2000 or so. Father had passed in 1996. But until he was there, I used to send all my PhD scholars to him to discuss with him. Yeah. So he was not. You had asked me if he was part of Delhi University. He may not have been part of Delhi University. He was not, but he, at least through me, and he was in touch with the philosophy department. Margaret Chatterjee, have you heard of her? She's another person who, she's passed. She was a person of philosophy of religion. And that is another person I have seen Father in dialogue with. Yeah, Margaret Chatterjee. She was the director of the Indian Institute of Advanced Study in Shimla when I was there, and Father was also there. So I've seen them in dialogue. And I've seen them unravel many ideas, including the idea of freedom. I remember their dialogue on freedom. Yes. Margaret wrote on freedom extensively. Yes. So Father's writings span the philosophical. I mean, he may not have done the sort of academic writing which is done in philosophy, but all his writing was philosophical and was informed by philosophy. So he had studied philosophy. In fact, I think that some of the insights which he gave me, invaluable insights, which I find echoing much later in the commentaries I read on philosophy. He had and I say to myself, oh, Father said this. So he had the profound understanding of philosophy. He in Indian thought, he was taken by Nyaya. He had read some of the Navya Nyaya texts. And I remember once he said, you want to read the texts? I said, sure. So we picked up Sankhya Karika. That I remember reading with him. The thing is that there was so little time. 10 years is nothing with a person of his stature. And he was always on the move.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would follow him if I had leave or something. And so I once went to Germany because he was going to be there for a long time. And one of my friends who was a professor of pedagogy put me up, and then she used to drive me to where father was putting up the Black Forest area somewhere, and so we could have some more dialogue. There was very little time. I was also very busy at that point because I was teaching and researching and so. But the little time we had, he gave me a lot of insights. Yeah.
Can you share with us few books he suggested to you for
to read?
Yeah, for better reflection.
To read, yes. He always wanted me to read the original texts. Yeah, so I think it is because of him that I read some of the Frankfurt school philosophers, some of the Vienna Circle philosophers, since those were the latest ones. And at that point, I had read something in analytic philosophy, but he, for instance, Gilbert Ryle, he said, you must read Ryle. I remember him talking about this R.M. Hare. See, these were people who impacted on ethics. So that was one area which interested him. And he, I remember also him suggesting that I should read Bertrand Russell, though he would, I mean, he helped me to see the limitations also of Russell's writings. But what he was doing was, he was guiding me toward reading texts rather than commentaries. Yeah.
Well, he was also the president of Indian Philosophical Congress.
Yes.
And he had good association with the Indian Council of Philosophical Research.
He was.
So, can you bring some?
Yes, I remember Rekha Jhanji, some of the people in the ICPR who, in fact, he helped them with their journal. Okay. Yeah, for a long time. And of course, he was there for every conference which the ICPR organized. I think he also helped them to select areas of research. Yeah. I don't know very much what was, but I do know that because he would discuss that sometimes with me. Yeah. But I don't know if he was holding a particular chair or anything. He didn't talk to me about that.
He was the president of the...
I know he was the president, but in the...
And, do you know any association of him with regard to India International Center?
Badri was his friend, Chaturvedi Badrinath. Now he's no more. Ramchand Gandhi. Okay. He's also passed. I I don't know. Those were the people he used to
Or
talk
can you
to.
spot us various places in Delhi where he used to be, like India International Center,
Yeah.
other areas? Can you just?
There, I don't know if he went much anywhere else. IIC is quite an adda for all of us. Yeah, so in the sense that it holds so many seminars and talks, which I don't know if he never went to the Habitat Center. No, no. But he used to be associated with the with this Tibet house also.
Okay.
Dalai Lamas.
Dalai.
And there was one center for science which he was associated with. Who were the people? I don't recall the names, but he definitely had contacts there. Yeah, yeah. The Islamic Center came out much later. But I'm sure if Father was alive, he would be very much there also. Yeah. He was very much an interreligious. He was very much into it. Yeah. Though he didn't believe that all religions say the same thing. I remember once I said to him, "But Father, basically all religions are saying the same thing." And he said, "No." So I still have that book by somebody called Bhagwan Das. It's called The Essential Unity of All Religions. And what Bhagwan Das has done is, he has picked up concepts like love, like community, like justice, and taken quotes from various religious texts to show that they're saying the same thing. So my grandfather had given me that book to read, and I was very much influenced by that book, and I believed that all religions are saying the same thing. And to some extent, I still believe it, but Father helped me to see the basic differences, which are real to the practitioners. Yes, yes. I always sort of debated this with him, because Hinduism is not a practicing religion in the sense in which Buddhism is, or Christianity is, or Islam is. It's not a congregational religion. It is an individualistic religion, and it really has no texts. It really has no book, single book which one can. So it's not a religion in that sense. As Chaturvedi Badrinath was with me in that. I mean, he wrote on that. He said that dharma is not religion. And that was one point where we didn't really agree, but dharma is difficult to translate, but it is probably duty and responsibility and commitment and belief and faith and everything put together. So unlike religion, which is belief in God, you can be an atheist and you can be a Hindu. Yeah. You may not have a defined, deified God, idol, and you can be a Hindu. You can believe in the Nirgun Nirakar and be a Hindu. Kabir is a standing example. So, in that sense, I feel that it's not a religion, perhaps, and therefore a Hindu feels that all religions are saying the same thing because it's ready to, it's open. It's open. Not Hindutva, not what is happening in today. That is not. So, in that sense, it's universalistic and accepting of other religions, Semitic religions, or the primitive religions.
You ma'am rightly mentioned about the India Institute of Advanced Study in Seminar. And Mar Gregorios was also closely associated with it.
He was. Yeah. He was a fellow there.
Yes.
But he of him you can peace through culture.
Okay.
He was very much part of that association set up by Valentin Sidorov in Moscow. And I remember going to Moscow, and Sidorov asked me to deliver a lecture in that Oriental Institute of Studies in Moscow. And then there was a conference also, to which Father had also gone. And I also became a member of that Peace Through Culture, which then took me to places like Uzbekistan and all, I remember. So the Father was associated with that also. Do you have any records of this dimension of his work on peace?
On peace, ma'am, yes, like his interventions with regard to the scientists and the politicians in USSR, of stopping the nuclear.
He did. Yeah, he did. He now that you are talking of nuclear, he introduced me to this book called Brighter Than a Thousand Suns. It is, I don't remember the author's name, but it is about the nuclear explosion and how devastating it was because it helped to create the bomb which destroyed Japan. And the book begins with a mathematician making the calculations for the production of this bomb. And there's this benign look on his face, and he's totally oblivious of the consequences of that study. And I remember sharing this with Father, and he said that is just it. Your objectivity, this objectivity of knowledge, does this. The scientist is able to separate the consequence from what he's doing. In Science for Sane Societies, he's talking about this. Yes, so he was very much talking and thinking about. Yeah. Another very interesting thing, I remember his dialogue with him, was on the calendars.
Okay, Gregorian calendar.
Yeah, and then because I suddenly became aware that time is a philosophical construct, of course, but that it's only a construct. The rest are its measures. And the way we measure time is according to the cultures, and also with how a particular culture associated itself with the cosmic reality. He talks about it in The Cosmic Man. Yeah. So the understanding of the relation of man with time, he helped me to understand, exists in space. And the space, the moment you bring in space, it is not empty space, it is cultural. So that is why different perceptions of time and calendars, etc. Yeah. Yeah. So many things.
Do you think that his works that he has produced through books has not reached the audience yet?
And they haven't reached. You people have not worked on it. There must be so many manuscripts which have.
Recently, ma'am, around 1,000 articles of his, even after publishing so many books, now they have gathered around 1,000 articles, and the seminary that we were talking, Orthodox Theological Seminary, Kottayam, they are publishing in volumes.
Oh, very good.
Going to publish that in volumes.
Very good.
Yeah, it's almost 7 to 11 volumes.
Yeah. And you know, each thing he used to be so thorough. I was looking at this file and I found this.
Are these all articles written by him?
Some of them, yeah. This is all his. This, for instance, is that chapter in this book, in Light to Bright.
Okay.
Because he thought that the Enlightenment had blinded us by its. So this chapter, Reasons Unreasoned, he gave to me, and he said that you read it and put it in order. So I found that some of the pages were not numbered. So I said, I have put the ones which are numbered. I put it, and then I said, there are some which are not numbered. So he said, it'll have to be done again. I said, no, I will find the links, and no, it has to be. He was such a perfectionist. So then this became superfluous, so I kept it. He got it done again. Then there are so many of his, the Western calendar and the Eastern calendar. See? I don't know if you guys have it or not.
No, we don't have this.
Okay, so then.
This is written by him?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you see on top it says Notes for Church?
Yes, ma'am. This has come out.
It has come out?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And do you have this? This is Dorian. This is not Father's. And this is Father's article on the unity of the grand continuum. This must have come out, yeah. See, he used to give me these to read and correct. Yeah. So all these have come out, I think. Religious implications of the Gaia theory?
That has not.
No?
I don't think that has.
You guys should do something on Gaia also. See, religious of the Gaia theory. This is, of course, Our Planet. This has come out, I know, because I read it in print even while he was there. This is a copy I corrected. That's That's it, not many. This is all that conference planning. This is nothing. No.
Ma'am, you are in touch with people who have attended that conference?
Which one?
This Rishikesh conference. Ma'am? Maybe they may have passed away, sir.
Yeah. The international participants I'm not in touch with. The Indian participants were the only Mahinder Singh is there.
Yeah.
You've met him?
No, I called him, but he was very busy to get the appointment. I don't know.
Okay,
And there
he
was
is
no
very
backup,
busy.
actually.
Okay, I'll tell him
Okay, yes.
that he should
Sure,
talk to you.
sure.
So Mahinder Singh was there, that Ali was there from Hamdard University.
The Padmaja ma'am will be available if I...
Padma Sarangapani. She was, I don't think she went to Rishikesh with us, but she will, she remembers Father.
Okay.
So she will have something to, definitely something to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shefali Singh she's in Gorakhpur. She's the principal of her college.
Oh.
Yeah, some college. So Shefali will remember Father. You know, Shefali dreamt before Father died that he was going, and when we went for the funeral,
Yes.
and they made him sit because
Yes,
we'd never
yes.
seen
That
that. So Shefali said, "This is what I saw."
Oh my God.
Amazing, no? So Shefali is there. See, these were all my students.
Yeah.
They're all around.
It will be very good if I interview them.
Yeah.
With regard to...
I will give you all
Yes,
the
yes.
all the contacts.
When you have, I'm sorry to ask, you have pictures with Mar Gregorios?
You know, I was looking, there's once I remember in Faridabad, he came to our home, and then we went to Koshi's. You remember Koshi's? He was in the police.
Oh,
We
yes,
went to
ma'am,
their
passed
home.
away.
He passed.
Alexander.
Ah.
Yeah, Koshi, ma'am, is IPS, he passed away.
So in his house,
Oh.
at the dining table, somebody was taking photos. I have no pictures. I would love to have one picture with Father. There was one in Moscow,
Okay.
but I don't know where it has gone. I don't know where it has gone.
The
I
picture
don't
that
know.
is kept there, you clicked that?
No, he gave me that.
Yeah.
That framed one?
Yeah, that frame.
Yeah. And the other one, the small one, there is a beautiful picture, I don't know where. I've kept it with a child.
Okay.
So
Yeah, he is holding
I
the-
got it blown up and presented it to the Tughlakabad Center. Have they put it?
I think like he is laughing
Yeah.
with that child, yes. And that child actually, he grew up and he has sent a message, like his current photo,
Okay.
current picture. He is married and he has kids.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so that's a beautiful
He's in
picture.
he's in London.
He's in London.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And that got published as a front picture of many books.
It's such a beautiful
yeah,
picture.
It's a beautiful picture.
Yeah. That he gave me a copy. So after he passed, I got it blown up. I thought it should go to the church. It should also go to that orphanage.
Ma'am, they have.
They have? I don't have any pictures with them. There is one picture in my sitting room in the university house. I remember, but I don't know where these pictures. If I find them, I will certainly give you. Yeah. And if you find any pictures, please share with me. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Ma'am, so my last question to you. what are your ideas that the world should incorporate from leaders or spiritual people and thinkers like Dr. Paulus Margaret?
So, of the unity of religions, of the need for interreligious dialogue, and for understanding the many dimensions of man and not just the rational or reason-oriented man, of understanding the need of man for something beyond the material, for something beyond the lived, and looking at lived experience, which includes life worlds of man, and not just his mind, not just the thinking, and also how what Father used to say, his ideas on what is a thought, because a thought is not just an intellectual thought. A thought comes from the whole being, and the understanding of the being. You know, he used to talk about the phenomenological and talk about the limitations of the noumenal, and he used to stress the importance of looking at the life world of a person more holistically, which would include, you see, the Western philosophy has created a polarity between philosophy and religion also. So much so that if God has to be discussed, it is confined to the philosophy of religion. Yeah. Otherwise, philosophy does not discuss per se God. So Father was not in favor of this, and he said that in that sense the Indian philosophical traditions, which are known as the religio-philosophic traditions, make more sense. So that perspective needs to reach large population of children. And then his ideas on peace on compassion.
Generation to aspire for a very open and broad-mindedness.
First of all, somebody has to have his mind. You know, and then the largesse of his heart, which was accepting of.
Yes. Even though being a rooted Christian, that
it didn't stop him from letting me become his friend.
Yes.
Yeah. So, or Badri, Chaturvedi Badrinath. He was very open. Yeah, that openness has to be there. I don't know how he did it with all the regulations of the church, but he did it.
Yes.
And he had this very deep relationship with Christ, no? Very deep. That is what elevated him. So, for future generations to learn, at least from the church especially, at least develop that from Father's teaching, that deep relationship, that deep commitment to Christ, to the compassionate. And of course his mind, his ideas on reason, limitations of reason, on the understanding of the Enlightenment philosophers, on the understanding of the Hindu philosophers, on the understanding of Buddhism. All those are things to learn from him. He had a mastery of, he was a great admirer of Nagarjuna. Yeah. And often quoted him. He had read Nagarjuna. I think I read Nagarjuna with Father. Yeah.
And also he has written about Aurobindo.
Aurobindo also. Aurobindo also. I used to say to him that someday if you have time, I want to go with you to Pondicherry to experience, because the presence of Aurobindo is there in Pondicherry. When I go there, especially in the ashram and in the people who believe in Sri Aurobindo, any dialogue with them brings him alive, brings Sri Aurobindo alive. Father understood that. Yeah, Sri Aurobindo he knew. Krishnamurti also he knew. Yeah. And of course he had read his Gandhi and Tagore. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's an honor to meet you.
Oh, I'm very glad to recall, reminisce.
Ma'am, can you just give us, it's like we are interviewing around 100 people, maybe direct or indirect disciples or associates, or those who are influenced by his teachings. So all over the world, through contacts like you, you're just sharing me with various people. So we are connecting with all those. Even though they may not have to speak, they may not have contents to speak for hours, but those 15 minutes, 20 minutes, that is very important. Crucial. So we are interviewing and what basically helps me to move is the promoting the teachings that can help and shape the world in a more better clarity.
Yeah. You know, fathers, you're doing a commendable job, because you are collecting from his associates, who knew him as a person. Not only his writings of course are profound. And if those can be shared, they will definitely impact on whoever is reading them. My students read them. That's why I missed those two books which I was talking to. And this thing on reasons unreason I give to my master's class. So those are things which will help people to reach him. Yeah. His writings will have to be, I don't know how it is to be done, but they have to be publicized. Yeah. And perhaps people can be requested to pick on YouTube or whatever you want to do. That will help. But what you are doing is commendable. And all my best to you for this exercise. And thank you for including me in this very large enterprise, very big project which you've undertaken. All the best to you, Father. Thank you.